So you guys probably seen the video that I did, I think it was yesterday, where I was talking with Dell, the game developer. We were talking about the shop and why there's a lot of stuff missing. This person watched that video as well, and they wanted to add more to it, right? So I'll let you like introduce yourself, and then wherever you want to start the conversation, we can take off from there.
Yeah, sick, cool. So, a lot of your audience probably doesn't know me, but
Yeah, that's
my name is
fine.
Koenji. Yeah, I play a lot of Tekken, but I've also modded Tekken since like the release of Tekken 7. So, I modded a lot of Tekken 7, modded a lot of Tekken 8. So, a lot of kind of like my kind of like start to game dev was related to that. And then I actually transitioned from doing a lot of modding work to actually like working on like a couple projects as well. I create like an Unreal Engine project. People can actually create assets easier and all that stuff. So,
I noticed the body types for the characters are the same. Like the males all have like the same kind of body type, and the female characters, and they probably do that so they can like make one outfit and it fits everyone.
So they
Yeah.
have two sort of mesh types, right? So they have like the actual model, and the community kind of describes it as like a muscle rig. And then they have another mesh, which is identical to that. That mesh is weighted differently, and that mesh is what the game looks at to like kind of like scale it and like fit it properly onto like different character bodies. They only need those two meshes, and then they can fit like Dragonov and like all them lot, right? Whereas in Tekken 7, they would literally have to make each individual costume for every single character.
Yeah, I see what you're saying here. It says season launch, and they have that checked, and then next to it says season 1, season 2, and then under that it says check all, and then they have individual boxes for check male, check female, check big, check huge, check GHP. It looks like.
Big would be Jack A, huge is the Bears, and GHP is Leo. The best way of kind of like thinking about it as well, if you turned off all the visual stuff, the game would actually still operate the exact same, because what they've basically done is they took their battle system from Tag 2, right? So the
Yeah.
actual gameplay itself, and all they're using Unreal Engine for is to render the actual visuals. I don't know if you remember, like with like T7, right? People were like porting actual movesets, and the reason why that was like able to happen is because with T8, it's like it's the same battle system as T7, and that battle system is identical to Tag 2.
The first example of that I can think of where Michael Murray was talking about mods is when someone ported Tag 2 June into Tekken 7 and it went viral, and he was like,
Yeah.
no, don't do that, don't put characters. He wasn't saying to stop, but he was saying like that can cause some
Yeah,
issues.
and I think they were worried about the animation, like their animation data and stuff like that being kind of like distributed online and not being in the actual game itself. And then obviously there's like legal issues to that as well, potentially. Modding Tekken in general has always been quite like a gray area that they acknowledge every now and again, but they don't really like try and like mess up like the fun that people might have with it, right?
Yeah. What's the purpose of them like talking about these different like color channels? What are they trying to teach?
To kind of get like file size for like your games and stuff to be smaller.
Yeah.
When it comes to like these sort of things where like you're packing information into something, like color information for something, it's best to kind of have that all tied into like one texture,
Oh,
because
okay.
that's like one asset that gets saved, right?
Let's say you have 1,000 pictures of cats. You will put all of those pictures into one folder, so it
One,
doesn't
yeah.
like affect like your 1,000 pictures of dogs. So that's basically what they're showing is like you have the, let's say like King's leg, but then when you go into that folder, then you can see like the individual, and they just did that in a way to where it's like optimized and it's like time efficient, but then also for like a developer, they can go in like very specifically to a part and like adjust the colors and whatnot. That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and basically, and this in particular is very interesting, right? So
Yeah.
this needs to all become like one big texture, and all these individual quadrants is technically its own texture. And what Unreal Engine does is that Unreal Engine kind of like bakes it down into one texture. And even with costume ports, to kind of get it to feel right in Tekken 8, it takes quite some effort to do. 3 weeks to like a month to get everything sorted. It's definitely a thing to remember that this game has a massive team behind it as well. I'm not sure exactly how it works for like a Japanese company, because I'm from the UK, right? With companies in the UK, I work in indie a lot. With indie, it's like you're basically like trying to manage the roles of like 10 or how many different people, right, to get like the final result. But for AAA, it's like, yeah.
But also too, it seems like their formula is very successful, and that's probably why they don't want to change it, because like Tekken 7 was a huge hit, and they're the only 3D fighting game that's still standing right now. So
Yeah.
their formula is probably something that is worth sharing at least to the other fighting game devs, so they can understand maybe what they're doing wrong, or maybe just
Doing.
learn from it.
As I said before, like I've modded T7
Yeah.
and T8, right? And the difference in terms of like structure between T7 to T8 is night and day.
So they cut out a lot of the garbage so to help their developers, figure out and learn it better, but that's also helping the modders like read it better as well, is what you're saying.
It's not really helping the modders as much as
Yeah.
as much as I would like it to. When T7 stages started, when people were making stages for T7, people were just swapping map files. But their systems that they had for that, like they were good, but there wasn't really like much like crazy things you could kind of like do with it, right? T8, on the other hand, T8 has a whole like battle manager system. I'm not even joking. This battle manager system is insane. Like how they can kind of like author and like set up maps and all that stuff. Every single time like a fight starts, right? It does kind of like a cool camera pan. All of that camera like movement stuff is done in sequencer. Like the arena stage does this, right? When you get the final hit on the arena stage, right, it shoots up a bunch of fireworks, right?
Yeah.
So if you hit like this certain wall on the map, we can make like chunks of debris fall off, or like we can make this thing move and all that. The system behind doing all that stuff is so much more advanced while still being like relatively simple as well. It's really cool.
So for modders, how long until you guys crack the code on this? Like how long until we see like modded stages for Tekken 8? Because I remember with Tekken 7, I don't know if it was like around season 3, but it was like all of a sudden you just seen modded stages like all the time. So like how far is like the Tekken 8 modders away from doing that with stages?
We can only make as much progress as like the tools that basically become available for us, right? Unreal Engine 5 basically like changed kind of like their internal like encryption system.
Okay, yeah.
So their encryption system is completely different to how Unreal Engine 4 operated. A bunch of like Unreal Engine 5 games ran into the problem where it's like, oh crap, none of these tools that we used to use before like work for like any Unreal Engine 5 game. Like it could be like, if we're lucky, it literally could be maybe like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? I'll come back to you and be like, yo, we can actually do all these things now. It could be like maybe like 2 years down the line, right? Who knows, right? How long that could be.
Basically, it's like a collaborative effort in a way from mods spanning multiple different games. Like you have someone discover something here and it's like, oh, okay, can we use this for Tekken? Can we use this for this? Oh, we can't. Oh, maybe Tekken discovered something, and then like, is that how it works? Like you guys are kind of
yeah, that's how it works. The main topic and like the main kind of like situation surrounding TA is about its aggression, right?
Yeah.
So the ways how they're going to maybe like obviously they're not gonna like fully tone it down, but like how are they gonna go about adjusting that for like a new season, right?
Even when you don't focus on like nerfing, it's like, how are you just going to give it a new flavor? Because with Tekken 8, they did that constantly, where they switched up this, or like even though I'm not a fan of the power crushing wall bounces and all that stuff, it still gave a new flavor to the game, like when they added new moves and stuff like that. So it's like when it comes to the heat system and how complex that is, I am interested to see what they have in mind in combination with all of the feedback they're getting.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see for sure. It was a really good chat. I was glad I was able to talk about them. So
yeah, I appreciate it.
Good.
Always interested to hear someone else's opinion,